Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wolfpacker Show. My name's Ethan McDowell. I am here with Noah Fleischman, and we're here for another fall camp episode to break down the NC State football team's preseason. We're about halfway through preseason. I mean, NC State kicks off 2 weeks from today, so we are almost there. It is almost time for football season. Over the past couple of weeks, we've been keeping our ear to the ground. We've been at the press conferences. We've been calling up our sources. We've been trying to get as much info as possible on fall camp. We've talked about it on this show, but we've also talked about it a lot more on the wolfpacker.com. That's NC State's site on the On3 network, the fastest growing college football and basketball recruiting site out there. If you're interested in NC State athletics right now, it's the place to be. I promise. Just give it a shot. Go check it out. It's the wolfpacker.com. We're going to talk about a lot of the inside information that we've heard on this podcast, but there is a lot more on the website. And, there's a growing message board community on there, and we have recruiting scoops. NC State's trying to flip a 4-star linebacker from another Power 5 school. So go check that out. We've posted multiple articles on him this week. So lots of good stuff on the wolfpacker.com. I encourage you all to check it out soon. But today, we are going to talk about 5 big questions ranging from very, very specific to super broad about NC State's 2024 season. We're going to talk about expectations. We're going to talk about position battles. We're going to dive into some of the big storylines that we've kind of taken away from just listening to and seeing what's been happening in fall camp so far. Noah, we're going to start out with one of the more specific questions, and we'll get more and more big picture as we go along this afternoon. But first one I want to ask about is, who's the biggest surprise of fall camp? I mean, we've heard plenty about Grayson McCall or Jordan Waters, and Aiden White, and Davin Van. Those are known quantities. They're going to be really freaking good this season. But there's also some names that have kind of caught our attention during fall camp. Who's someone that you want to shout out as someone that you think could be a key contributor this year, or is just kind of exceeding what your expectations were for them going into camp?
Yeah, I guess we'll go to the wide receiver room. Obviously, it's a position that coming into camp was a really highly touted group. Lots of guys they brought in, some transfers. But Keenan Jackson's a freshman who's turned some heads. Robert Onai talked about him. Dave Dorn's talked about him. He's stepped up when his number's been called in practice and has been playing really, really well. He's not the guy, I think, if you would come into camp and be like, all right, which true freshman would catch the eye of people? Probably we're going to pick Keenan Jackson. You're probably picking a Jonathan Paylor or Terrell Anderson. But no, Keenan Jackson's a guy that's making waves. And Ethan, at this point, I wouldn't say you wouldn't redshirt him, but the way that they're talking about him, there's a chance that he could play in more than 4 games this year.
It's going to be tough to keep him off the field based on everything we've heard, man. I mean, it sounds like he is doing really, really well. I got to evaluate him probably, I think it was 3 times during his high school career. He was physically ready to play college football like the spring of his junior year. He's 6'3" receiver, physical, and thrives in 50-50 ball situations. I saw him play in a couple of playoff games last winter, including his state championship. He won a 4A state championship with Weddington High, and his recruitment was always like he always had the offers, right? He always had like the long Power 5 schools interested in him, but the rankings didn't catch up until he went off, had like over 1,700 yards as a senior. And I thought when they flipped him from UNC close to signing day, I thought he was honestly the most college ready receiver out of the group that joined the pack, out of those 5 freshmen. Didn't hear a ton about him in the spring, but it sounds like he really made a leap in the fall. I'm really excited about him, man. Just like you, I think he is someone that, that 4th wide receiver spot is pretty open. Like, that is an open competition. You know it's going to be Noah Rogers, Dakari Collins, Wesley Grimes, right? Like, those 3 are pretty much, I'd say, locked into the top 3 of the depth chart. Then it's that 4th spot where I think we had penciled in Terrell Anderson, another freshman, top 75 overall recruit. But I wouldn't be shocked to see Keenan playing that role right now. He pretty much every source I'm talking to these days is really bullish on Keenan's potential long term, but I also think he could be an instant contributor with the way he's taken a step forward. The guy I wanted to mention is someone that we really haven't talked at all about this offseason, DJ Jackson, a redshirt sophomore nose tackle who came into NC State with some promise and then just dealt with injuries for the first couple of years of his career. He's healthy now, and I heard he arrived in camp in great shape. He had really worked on like improving like his mental approach to the football side of things, and it sounds like he's ready to contribute this year. NC State brought in Chaz Wallace from Colorado to be probably that backup nose guard, but I've heard a lot about DJ so far in fall camp. He had a good scrimmage last week, and I think he's someone that he could push for those backup reps. Maybe at least we see split responsibilities where him and Wallace are kind of sharing snaps in that area. But shoot, I mean, if they have another, like especially an underclassman emerging as a potential contributor, because you look at it like Brandon Cleveland, there's a world where Brandon Cleveland's in the NFL next year, right? He could be a 3-and-done type of player. I think that you need to start to establish depth. And while I have heard good things about the freshmen along the defensive line, you want to see someone that's going to be there next year with a little more experience kind of emerging. And DJ Jackson has been that guy so far. So, hopefully he stays healthy, continues to progress, and he could be a contributor for NC State this fall. The next question we're going to kind of take a step up here is who's an underrated player who you think is going to make the All-ACC team, Noah? Obviously, we're going to rule out Aiden White and Casey Concepcion. They both made the All-ACC team, but who's someone that you think could surprise us and make that list by the end of the year?
It's a guy I put on my ballot at ACC Media Day. Sean Brown moving from safety to linebacker. Nobody really knows what to expect, outside of the Raleigh area of what he can do. He's a man that plays really, really good at this position really well, and he did it against Clemson. And I think he's a guy that's going to be an all-ACC kind of guy. I mean, heck, he made the Butkus Award preseason watch list, and he's played like one series of linebacker in his college career.
Yeah.
So there's obviously the scouts and people love him as a linebacker from that just alone, because that's an award that is a committee of 51 people made up of reporters, but also NFL scouts and NFL coaches. And if they're putting him on that list, they obviously see something that a lot of people in the ACC don't right now. But I think by the end of the year, he's going to turn some heads. He's not going to be Peyton Wilson, but I think he's really, really good for this defense.
Yeah, I usually don't care at all about these preseason watch lists just because there's so many players like on every single one almost that it's like, all right, yeah, if you're a starting caliber player at NC State, you probably should be making these watch lists. But for Brown to make the Butkus Award one, I was like, whoa, that caught my attention. He's never played linebacker outside of 14 snaps or whatever. So he that was cool to see. That was cool to see for him. And we've talked a good bit about Sean Brown. He's one of the X factors for this season. I think based on all the buzz around fall camp, I think you were right to put him on your preseason All-ACC team because he is dominating right now. He is leading the defense, and I think he is in a spot where he could take a leap and be a straight-up star for the Pack this fall. He finished third on the team in tackles last year as a safety, and he already spent a good bit of time in the box. Now he'll be there for the majority of his snaps, and I think his physical playing style, his speed, his just knowledge of the game, he's a hard worker, and I think that's going to translate really well to the will linebacker position where you have to have true sideline to sideline ability. You got to give 110% effort on every single play. That's why Peyton Wilson was really good at it, in addition to, the fact that he was 6'4" and could run a 4.4. But I think Sean has potential to be special this season. A lot of sources I talked to totally agree. I had one anonymous source basically tell me he's going to make a lot of money as a linebacker in his career. So expectations very high for Sean Brown. Whatever your expectations are right now, Wolfpack fans, raise them a little bit. We were both really optimistic about him coming into the season, right? But I think just the transition went well in the spring. I think he's taken another leap in the fall, and that's really exciting for Wolfpack fans to hear. And hope should be high for the redshirt junior. My pick is going to be one of the incoming transfers. I picked Zeke Corral. He's someone that I think Wolfpack fans are excited about. Like everyone knew they needed a center. They brought in Zeke as he's a plug and play starter for this year. That's great. 3-year starter at Notre Dame, and had started the past 23 games for Notre Dame's offensive line, a unit that is traditionally very, very good. He allowed 0 sacks last year, and in his 4 seasons of playing, he only allowed 3 total. He's a very, very strong pass blocking center. Put up a 78.0 PFF grade in that area. The grades drop a little bit in run blocking, but that's an area where he could improve this year. And there's just a lot of excitement about him. He was hurt in the spring, but he took on that leadership role. That's something we've written a lot about on the Wolfpacker.com, is how he embraced being sidelined during the spring. And now he did exactly what he was brought in to do, Noah. He's a plug and play starter, and he's going to be really good. I believe all 3 All-ACC centers from last season are gone too. So he definitely has an opportunity to, kind of take on that mantle and be one of the conference's next great centers. And NC State, their past 3 starting centers have either been drafted or made the All-ACC first team. So a lot of tradition there. And Zeke Corral, I fully expect to continue on that path. He's going to be I'd be a little surprised if he's not a captain this year for the Pack. And he's just someone that I have a lot of really, really high expectations for. Let's dive into our third question. We're going to move one spot to the left of Zeke. But we're going to talk about the left guard position battle, which it seems like is the main position battle in camp right now. I know before the season we talked about like the second cornerback spot opposite of Aiden White. It sounds like Brandon Cisse is going to hold down that spot. He's having a really good camp. He's a really good player. Left guard, though, it's a legit position battle. And Noah, we went into the fall camp unanimously saying we thought Kamen Smith, a redshirt freshman, was going to take over that job. I think we were wrong about that. Noah, what is that position battle looking like now?
Yeah, I think, obviously we were wrong because I asked Dave Dorn about it yesterday, and it comes down to 2 players. Anthony Carter Jr., the incumbent, played 819 snaps at guard last year. Did play 2 games at right guard, but spent most of the year at left guard. He is obviously the one that's getting his job pushed for by Matt McCabe, former walk-on, turned scholarship player a year ago. He's having an outstanding, offseason as a whole right now. Now going into this fall camp, pushing. He's a guy who only played 34 snaps, period, in his college career, Ethan. He's pushing a guy that played every single snap basically a year ago. That's really, really exciting to see. And at this point, it seems like it's anybody's game. Dave Dorn was not really – he complimented both, said they've both done really well, and he's comfortable with both guys playing. So something to keep an eye on, and it's way too early to tell, but their scrimmage tonight hopefully can help answer some of those questions.
Yeah, that'll probably provide a little bit of clarity. I'm going to make you call your shot, though. Who starts game 1 at left guard for NC State against Western Carolina? Who's out there?
Yeah, so here's the thing. If this stays close throughout camp, I think they're going to opt with who's got the experience, and that's Anthony Carter. 819 snaps. You can't replicate that in a month's worth of practice, unfortunately. That's just where I think, he's a guy who's up and down a year ago. He had multiple games with 0 quarterback pressures. He posted an 80.3 pass blocking grade against Marshall, put up an 85.3 pass blocking grade at Wake Forest. He's a guy that has at times been an elite pass blocker on this offensive line. But there's other times where he's allowed 5 pressures against Louisville a year ago. He allowed 4 in that second game against Notre Dame. So he's an up and down guy. But if he can figure out how to keep it on that, 0 to 2 pressures, which he ended the year, the last 5 games with 0 to 2 pressures in every single game, I think that's really important. And NC State won all 5 of those, won 4 of those 5 games. They did lose the bowl game. But he's a guy that seemed to figure it out as the year went on, and that's going to be really important this year if he does win the starting job.
I hear you, and if Wolfpack fans should be very comfortable, I think if Anthony Carter is your starting left guard, just because I thought he was solid last year. Yeah, he had rough games, but for the most part, he was a solid player. The idea of Matt McCabe there's always intrigue in the unknown. And the idea of Matt McCabe taking a step forward is to be better than that consistent output from Anthony Carter Jr. is very intriguing. I mean, he's listed at 6'6", 302 pounds. He's someone that can play all over the offensive line. You put him next to Anthony Belton, and that's two of the most physically imposing offensive linemen you'll find out there. So I'm intrigued by if he's really progressed to this point. He's someone the staff obviously loves. They've really enjoyed his journey from being a walk-on defensive lineman to someone that played a huge role on special teams last year, and then now it looks like he's ready to potentially win that job. And I don't think it's just a matter of they're putting the experienced player in that starting spot, or I should say upperclassman player in that spot. I think he has a very legitimate shot to win this job. I would not be surprised at all if he walks out in the starting lineup for game one. And regardless of who starts, the fact that it sounds like they are comfortable playing both, it means you have two offensive linemen, both like 6'4" and above, who can play a bunch of different positions, and you kind of get back like that sixth offensive lineman. NC State didn't really have that last year because they had to do a lot of reshuffling. Ja'Carrius Peak was kind of that guy, but he was just an offensive tackle and then a blocking tight end as well. And of course, now he's the starting right tackle. So you definitely needed someone to step up as like that swing guy who can play a few different positions and help out, when there's an injury, or just to spell offensive lineman at any point. And like my first year on the beat, like Bryson Spees was that guy, right? And he was huge for the Pack. He was their Swiss Army knife along the offensive line. And having him in that role again, having a offensive lineman in that role, having Anthony Carter or Matt McCabe back in that role would be huge. Just having a sixth offensive lineman that you can feel very comfortable plugging into the game if needed. All right, we're going to dive into two last questions today. But before we do that, I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsor, Game Time. Game Time is a ticket buying and selling platform, whether you're looking for tickets to NC State's opener against Western Carolina, if you're looking for tickets to a Durham Bulls game, a concert, or a comedy show, Game Time has it all. My favorite thing about the very, very easy-to-use app is that when you pull up any game that you want to go to, and you can see the exact view from your seat that you'd be buying. I'll hold it up for those watching on YouTube. Look, this is NC State's game against Western Carolina. Cheapest ticket right now is $34, so that's a deal. And then you see exactly the view from the seat. If you were in row M, you see the view from row M. And it just takes a step out of the ticket buying process. If you're unfamiliar with the venue you're going to, you want to know what your angle you'd be watching from, your seat is. So they made that simple. And I really appreciate that. That's why I use the Game Time app all the time. If you are interested in the Game Time app, I encourage you to look on any app store. Just search up Game Time, or you can look it up on your web browser at gametime.co. When you do check it out, use code Wolfpack, and that's all caps, Wolfpack. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. So make a good deal even better. And go check out Game Time on any app store, or again on your web browser at gametime.co. Noah, let's talk about expectations. NC State has been not shy at all about their aspirations for this year. They want to win the ACC. They want to make the college football playoff. The path to doing both of those things is not easy, as Wolfpack fans know very well. But we just kind of want to talk about how the Pack could get there. How could NC State make the college football playoff? Because the nice thing is there is a clear path. There is a guaranteed path. So Noah, just outline for me and the listeners, how does NC State get to Charlotte in December?
Yeah, the easiest thing to do is you beat Clemson week 4, and then the rest of the league schedule looks pretty doable. Mm-hmm. Undefeated in league play, 8-0. That'll get you to Charlotte. Now, how else can you get away to the CFP without going to Charlotte, Ethan? Beating Tennessee. Maybe losing. You're going to lose. If you're going to not get to Charlotte, you're probably not beating Clemson then. Then they got to win everything else. So it's either you can play the Tennessee game a little bit and go 8-0 in conference play, guarantee yourself to Charlotte. I think 8-0 in the ACC gets you into the college football playoff. There's 12 spots. I think that gets you in, even if you lose the conference championship game. The other way is miss the conference championship game, which could actually be helpful for some teams that are on the bubble because you're not risking losing another game, right? If you're a NC State sitting at 11-1, missing the ACC championship game because you lost to Clemson, and it's Clemson Florida State or Clemson Miami in the ACC championship game, they pretty much locked up a spot in this college football playoff because you're not going to be that team that's got 2 losses. It's hard to leave out a 1-loss team that would have a win over a top 15 Tennessee team. So those are the 2 easiest ways, but the easiest way is obviously win the ACC, guarantee yourself a top 4 seed most likely, and just move on. But there are a couple other ways.
Yeah, I mean, the simple path is win all your games, right? Just don't lose. But
just win.
I think to get there realistically, they're going to have to win the ACC. I think that it's going to be very hard to sweep the Tennessee and Clemson games. We'll do a game-by-game prediction breakdown before week 1 here, but I think it's going to be very tough to win both of those games. I personally think they're going to split them, but I think it will be very tough to win both of them. And then you're looking at it's going to be tough to be an at-large bid out of the ACC. I think you would have to be like a 1-loss team or 2 very good losses because it's going to be tough. That there's going to be the natural Big Ten SEC bias out there. It's just how college football works at this point. So I think they have to get to Charlotte, to be quite honest. That Clemson game is just so massive. And we were in the spot 2 years ago, man, where that Clemson game to open ACC play. And it's just like, all right, here you go. This kind of decides your season a little bit. And here it is again, going back to Clemson for this another huge matchup, man. And the ACC, we'll see how it shakes out. Like Florida State might take a small step back. Clemson, who knows at this point? And then you have like the other contenders where it's like Miami. Yeah, they're really, really talented. Is it going to all come together this year? We'll see. So the ACC is wide open. I say when I say like they have to make it to Charlotte, like that's a very attainable goal. NC State knows it's an attainable goal. They're just trying to go out and get it at this point. So to get to the college football playoff, to realize those goals, I think you do have to make the ACC championship game, and I think that is a very realistic path for the Wolfpack. Kind of going off of that, our final question of the day is pretty simple, man. Just in your eyes, from the conversations you've had with folks, it's kind of a 2-pronged question for you. What do you think is a successful season for NC State in the eyes of NC State? And what would you view as a successful year for the Wolfpack?
Yeah, successful year in NC State's eyes is playing in Charlotte in December. That's a successful year for them. Anything on top of that is icing on the cake, I think, at that point. They obviously know they can make the CFP. It's an attainable goal. It's at the top of their list. ACC championship game is right there, too. NC State wants to bring a trophy home, and I think that's a successful year in their eyes. In my eyes, 10-win season, successful season. NC State hasn't done that in, some of these guys on the team's lifetime. Let's just put it that way. I mean, it's been a while. Philip Rivers was quarterback. We talked about that last year, and that was an attainable thing that they had going. Is that successful in the fans' eyes? I don't know. There's a lot of hype around this team coming into the year and what they were able to do. But a 10-win season, I think, even if that doesn't get you into the CFP, it's still a successful season, like overall, even if the team is disappointed that the CFP wasn't there.
I'm totally in agreement, man. I think 10 wins is the line. It's a pretty easy schedule. That's the bottom line. Once you get through those opening tests at Clemson and against Tennessee and Bank of America Stadium, I mean, you should win a lot of those games. Is that a certainty? No. That's why we cover the team. That's why fans turn on the TV
play the game.
Saturday. It's why you play the game. Noah. But I think it's very easy to sit here and say, yeah, it's AC championship game or bust, or it's college football playoff or bust. I don't think that's entirely realistic. If you win 10 games, if you win 10 games, but say you drop the game to Clemson and you lose a tiebreaker, or you lose the Georgia Tech game or something, and that's your second loss, that keeps you out of Charlotte. If you're still 10-2 at that point, you're still pretty happy. I think you get to Charlotte, you lose, and you're out of the college football playoff. You're still pretty happy. I think that is a successful season, but there is a high bar, and NC State does need to meet that high bar this season, and I do think it will be a disappointment, even if they get back to 9 wins this season. All right, folks, that is our 5 questions that we wanted to answer today. I hope we also answered some of your questions for this season. Feel free to comment any other questions you have. Maybe we'll answer them in a preview show down the line here. But thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back next week for another preview episode. Not really sure what that's going to look like, but we're going to talk about what we're hearing at fall camp. I can promise you that. We are almost there, folks. Again, check out thewolfpacker.com. NC State scrimmages tonight. We're going to post info. We're not allowed to go, but we're going to be calling up sources. We're going to be talking about what's going on, what happened at that scrimmage. It's the best inside info you can find over on thewolfpacker.com. So please check it out. We'll talk to you all next week. Thanks for watching.